Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's episode, we're swapping hop farms for bountiful orchards by exploring the world of fantastically fine ciders. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us! Oh, we're in person.
We are indeed.
That must mean that we've got some big beers. Oh, however, they are not beers.
They are not beers, are they?
They are not beers. We are on cider today.
And it's perfect because the weather is really, really nice for cider. So it feels like it's just the right weather for it, isn't it?
It does. I mean, I'm not a massive cider drinker. I'm a beer girl. But, I'll give it a go.
I think I don't normally, for me, I don't normally gravitate to ciders as, my option. Like, if I'm out, I think when I first moved here and when I was, visiting Rick, we drank a lot of ciders, like Magners. Yeah. I feel like Magners was, the drink of choice, pretty much. Especially, pear Magners.
Oh, I do like a Perry. Yeah. I do like pear cider. Yeah. Yeah.
But and then also we'd go to Reading Beer and Cider Festival quite a lot as well. So that was every year we would go to that. And I think I started the first year that we went, I would mainly drink the ciders as well. That is more so than the real ale, because I'm not really for me, I'm not really a real ale person. I like craft versions of traditional styles. It's not. I like my beer colder than real ale temperatures.
Right. So typically American.
So
talking about warm beer already.
I've gone in already on that. I mean, I didn't say warm beer per se, but I like it at a cooler temperature than what you typically get when you get a craft beer festival and it's been sat there overnight and So
they have that great cooling system that is a wet towel. What? I don't understand what you mean.
What am I even talking blasphemy am I talking about? So I'd always just go for ciders, I think, when we... I don't know at what point we stopped buying cider.
Madness.
I don't really know. I'm thinking about it, I don't really know the point at which we stopped buying cider in general and started...
Getting beers
beers in. I don't really... I don't think I can pinpoint it to when. It's just our recycling one day was just filled with Magners bottles, and then the next it was not.
I don't think I've drunk a lot of cider. I definitely... I have a vivid memory of being on the ship and they suddenly had Strongbow in, and everyone was like, "Oh, sure," because we
I don't think I'm really a Strongbow person.
Well, no. So when I was working on the ship, there was kind of a limited selection that was usually available. You could rely on there being Corona and Heineken, and then various other things depending on where you were in the world and what might have been bought for upstairs and then wasn't used up and ended up downstairs. So sometimes we'd be lucky and we'd Sam Adams wasn't always available. That's the first time that I had it was when I was on the ships, but it wasn't always available. And then when we did Alaska, we would then magically get Alaskan Brewing Co. beers. And then this one cruise, we suddenly had Strongbow and everyone was like, "Ooh, got something different." And I was just I don't think I've ever drunk a Strongbow. I'll give it a go. I drank several Strongbows and then was crying in the corner. So I kind of avoided cider because I was just apple cider makes me cry. Let's not do that. I mean, I don't think what we're drinking today is going to make me cry.
I hope not. I might do, but I hope not, because I feel if you're in the corner crying at the end of this, it's probably not a good thing. But I guess we decided to stray a bit from the beer thing because also, if you're watching this video, apologies, because you can see my husband's workout behind us.
We're in person and we're at Tori's house.
It feels like I keep getting distracted by the bright colours behind us, and I tried to hide it, but it's too big to hide and move. So I'm fine. This is the best spot for recording.
Yeah.
But we decided to do this episode today because it just felt I think we saw the Three Hills ciders that we're going to be having today. I thought they sounded really interesting. And also, as one will be aware, especially if you listen to our end of year episode / beginning of the new year episode, or our Q1 update, on my list of things to try and buy this year was a little Pomona. So, but obviously they are a cidery. Also, so that's like a key thing, is like where you make cider, it's called a cidery.
Yeah,
and,
not a brewery.
No, and then you've got, when you make places that make mead, that's a meadery.
That's a meadery,
and
yeah.
I still very strongly refer to places that you can get kebabs as kebabberies.
Kebabberies.
That is, I don't eat kebabs, but I have referred to those as kebabberies.
Okay.
So many times. So yeah, let's get it straight. You've got your kebabbery,
It's not a
your
kebab
meadery,
shop.
your cidery.
Kebabbery.
A kebabbery. It's not. It's a kebabbery. So just like you've got your kebabbery, you've got your cidery.
There you go.
So, and I was looking at what would you call a cider what would you call the person that makes the cider? Because so you've got like brewer. Would you call them a brewer? What would you call them? You literally call them cider makers.
Just cider makers.
Just cider maker.
Just
Unless there's another name, that's what's put out there. Is just
Yeah.
I googled, what is the person that makes cider? Cider maker.
That makes sense.
So I was like, I like that they're very to the point.
Yeah.
It's very straight to the point. So that's what we're going to be trying today, as well as we have Hogans Goes Against the Grain cider, and this one is a Goes cider. So from Hogans Cider. So yeah, it's from Warwickshire. And we just thought that would be interesting. That's an interesting way.
Interesting.
It sounds interesting, and it feels like it's an interesting way to just sort of tie it back in.
Yeah.
To beer.
Yeah.
So we'll give that a go last, and then you might, if you're lucky, you might get some bonus episodes with some other fun things there. So you'll have to keep an eye out, and you'll have to follow us and
you have to go
and coffee.
On coffee. So we'll put the links in the show notes. Go to coffee. You can donate us some money, which we'd much appreciate, because these things don't come cheap,
One of them did.
One of them did. But donate us a little bit of money so we can keep making this wonderful content for you, and then you get some bonus content. And there's loads up there at the minute. We've got some brewery tours. We've got our Q1 review. We've got some beer reviews on there. And once you pay some money, then you get access for 30 days to everything that's there. So
you can literally go on and just binge it in a month, and then not pay us again another month.
Yeah, if you don't want to.
You could literally pay us £1.
Yeah.
Go and binge it, and then
go enjoy yourselves.
And then be done until our next quarterly update, and then you'll have a whole bunch more new stuff. We try to at least do one post a month there, like one bonus for episode a month. But sometimes you get more than one episode a month, so because they are relatively short ones as well. So we try to get as much on there as we can in a month, but we can only really guarantee one a month. This month, I feel like you'll probably get a good few.
Might get a couple if I've got time to edit them.
Well, we'll see. By the time you watch this, I'm sure there'll be loads on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is, we do what we can to put some interesting stuff up there. At the moment, it is video only, but hopefully we'll find a way to do it audio. It's just, again, quite an expensive thing that has to come out of pocket, because it all has to be hosted and it's a whole thing. But if you do subscribe to our coffee, that money goes towards being able to do things like that, and also still being able to make the content. Yeah. So there you go. That's our little 3 seconds of product placement there, and So I guess the first one that we'll start with will probably just be little Pomona. It ticks my box off, and B is probably just the most straightforward actual cider.
And we were very kindly given this by Jules at Hop Hideout. Hi, Jules.
Thank you, Jules.
Thank you, Jules.
It made me really happy. I got a message from Joe that was like,
after Indie Beer Feast, because you were going to buy it, weren't you? From
I wanted
Hop
to buy it,
Hideout.
and they didn't have any when there wasn't any bottles there to buy.
Yeah,
and
they were at Indie Beer Feast.
Because they were at Indie Beer Feast. And so I couldn't buy any.
Yeah.
And I was really sad, but I was like, that's okay. The whole reason why I didn't buy it in advance was because I was like, I know that I'm going there and I'm going to be at Hop Hideout, so that's fine. But unfortunately, I think I had to leave before before they were actually open.
Yeah.
I was leaving the next morning, and they don't open until a certain time. And I actually think they might have even been closed on that day, full stop. so I couldn't get down there. And then Joe messaged like,
I was like, I have got us.
Jules has given us a present.
Yeah. So this is On the Beech, Beech 2020. And I believe Jules said that this is made with a particular type of apple. So let's have a little read of the label before we crack into it. When legendary orchard man and good friend Rob Uren brought us a little over 600 kilograms of white beech, a rare apple once prized by the old cider makers, we were like kids at Christmas. We pressed these along with some major, a super rich, sweet, spicy apple, and browns, all juicy for citrus. First into tank, but then subsequently moving it into 4 barrels, a mixture of ex-cognac, white burgundy, and Chianti to finish fermentation.
Sounds amazing.
What developed over time was everything we had hoped. On the nose, this is sweet and perfumed. Think ripe peach, honey, and lemon blossom. On the palate, it is gloriously mouth-watering, like stuffing fruit gums into your face, one after the other. And although technically bone dry, the fruit and barrel have combined to create an illusion of fruit sweetness, as wonderful as it is hard to believe. Drink cool, not cold, gluten-free.
Yeah, so I have taken them out of the fridge because actually, before we crack it open in general, should I give a really quick sort of rundown on like what is a cider?
Yes.
And what is a fine cider? Not just fine ciders, not just like strong will do.
Not just like strong way.
But it's also not just it's fine.
Yeah.
It's all right. It is
artisanal.
It is artisanal.
Yeah.
So a cider itself is basically an alcoholic beverage made from expressed juice of fruit, and that's normally apples, but as Joe said earlier, if it's made with pears, that's a perry. So I guess that's something worth noting, is you can have perries, which are pear ciders, and then that juice is then fermented. So basically in the US, if it's been untreated with any preservative methods, at that point that's when it is just cider in US terms.
Is it not just apple juice though?
No, because that is when you get apple juice, or what's commonly referred to as apple juice, that's when it has been treated to prevent spoilage.
Okay.
So like the untreated
right
apple juice, that is cider, what the US have known as cider. We would probably call that like you normally get like a pressed apple juice, or like
it's the fancy stuff.
The clousest that I've come to tasting like US cider here is probably like cloudy press.
Yeah.
It's very like you end up having to get like really fancy apple juice for it to be more close to US cider, but even then
Waitrose
it is
or Marks and Spencer's.
But even then it's still marketed as juice because I guess it's been treated so that it won't spoil.
Yeah.
So that is sort of the difference between cider in the US and apple juice.
Okay.
And then what is known as hard cider over in the US is when it's left to naturally ferment. That's when it becomes hard cider. So yeah, that is sort of the differentiator between apple juice, US cider, and hard cider, which is in the UK and most of Europe. It's just called
regular
cider.
cider.
I think there's probably some countries that don't sort of call it that, but I think over in Europe as a whole, it tends to be cider, which is really funny actually, because I think when I first moved here, and for me, part of what like my favourite season is probably autumn in the US.
Yeah.
Really love it. And I just remember like that was one of the saddest things about when I moved here. It's like you can't go apple picking really. It's really hard to go apple picking, and you don't get apple cider. And so I tried to find the things that were like the closest to replicate it, and you still don't really have it. It's sad.
No.
But I remember like going back to the UK, like going back to the US after, and then being like, oh yeah, like there's this cider, and then Rick would just be like, we just call it cider. I don't understand. Like there's hard cider and soft cider. Like what does that? And I think that was something that like would confuse both sides of the pond when I would say that.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, what makes it a fine cider is it's better than just okay. But yeah, it's small batch and craft and or artisanal. And I did look up the difference between like craft and artisanal, and the difference being so like craft is more. There's like creative process, and whereas like when something's more artisanal, so there's more sort of creativity and more like it's a little different like in terms of craft, but then artisanal is very much like when it's something that's trying to preserve the old techniques of how to do something, and you really have to like hone your craft you hone your craft there.
Yeah.
To make it artisanal so that you can
that.
keep it true. So that is sort of the difference there. And then also sort of like with wine, you got the terroir. That is quite important in cider making. And then again, this is how I knew to take these out of the fridge, was as I was going through sort of what makes a fine cider versus just the strongbows of the world. Normally you drink a strongbow, you probably drink it right out of the fridge, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it just however it comes.
Yeah, but similarly to beer, there is
cold.
a serving temperature or like a recommended way of sort of having it. It's like you shouldn't drink cider ice cold. Equally, like if it's too warm, that might dull some flavours as well. So, you know, there's no set temperature per se, like there is with certain beer styles, but it does say that you probably shouldn't have it ice cold, you probably shouldn't have it too warm. It should be roughly like just above room temperature, like cool, but not too much so, but room temperature is usually fine. I think it does require a little bit exploration as well.
Yeah.
Because you do want to see how that flavour changes. Like certain ones might be
stout.
so much... Exactly. Certain ones might be better at a colder temperature than others, especially depending on like what's gone into the making it. So yeah, that's the high level of that. And then I sort of just looked into the difference of the actual cider making process. So high level is selecting the fruit and harvesting them. Like with anything else, certain apple varieties are better than others, and I actually found out that it kind of depends on what you're trying to get to. Are you trying to get a tartar one? Are you trying to get a sweeter one? There's so many different varieties, and a lot of them in the UK specifically as well are grown just for making cider. So they're not edible. Like you wouldn't eat these apples that are made for cider making. And I thought that's really interesting because it's like you can use any apples, but I find it really interesting that there are specific cider apples, and so many of them. From there, you've got to prepare the fruit, which is when you have to wash all of it like super thorough, so that there's not any dirt or anything on them, and then you basically have to like grind it down into a pomace to break the fruit into a pulpy consistency. What I thought was interesting with that is they do it with the whole fruit. That includes like the skin and the seeds. So I thought that's something that you could probably relate to with making some beers as well, because I remember you saying about like the cleaning. I can even imagine what goes into making cider if you have to clean every single one of the apples that goes into that. Yeah.
This like alcohol production is just cleaning.
It's not glamorous. It's just lots of cleaning, isn't it?
Yeah, just loads of cleaning.
Yeah, it's not something that I would want to sign up for as a job. So from there, that pomace that you get, you then press it. So the traditional way, so that's to extract the juices fully. And to do that, you know, there's a manual way that gets done, and the more traditional way, the artisanal way, normally on like a wooden press, and you basically apply pressure to it as you'd expect. You apply pressure to it and you squeeze the juices out. But also there's more modern tech that uses hydraulics and pneumatic presses. That gets basically better efficiency and less physical effort. So you could probably... It's a lot more sustainable than a guy in a shed like
squishing.
Squishing, yeah. I like that way of explaining it. Squishing. You then go into your maturation process. So, you don't. I skipped. You then go into the fermentation process. So that is basically the juice is transferred into a fermentation vessel. So that can also include just putting it into barrels. Like it doesn't have to go directly. Well, it can go into your standard steel fermentation vessel. It doesn't have to. It could go into an oak barrel, for example, and it can sit in that oak barrel for the primary fermentation. Like that doesn't really matter there. And then at this point, some cider makers will add yeast in to initiate the fermentation process. Others will just allow for the wild yeast that naturally occur in that environment to take over and do its job.
Just regular Saccharomyces.
Did
it say what type of yeast it was?
No, I didn't see anything.
Brewer's yeast.
No, I didn't see actually what type of. It didn't specify. It just said, some people choose to do it. That'll be interesting to find out, though. Maybe we can find that out for a bonus episode.
Yeah, we'll find that out. See if it's your regular Saccharomyces that we use for brewing, and then just your regular bacteria and wild yeast like Brett.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see sort of across these if it says, which ones have had yeast added, which ones are more natural, and that's interesting. So from that point of the fermentation, it then goes into the maturation process. So not everybody has to do this, but a lot of some of these fine cideries will choose to put the cider through an additional aging process. So after that primary fermentation, they'll go and they'll let it sit in age. And that's just basically to develop and mature the flavouring so that you can get a more complex cider out of things. And especially if, like, say, you've put it in a steel fermentation vessel for primary fermentation, you can get more flavours once you then chuck it into a barrel, or, you know.
Just like with beer.
Just like with beer, like we've talked about before. So yeah, sometimes that happens, and it can be done, again, stainless steel tanks, oak barrels, a mixture of two, something completely different, like it sounds like Pomona's done. And after that, when it's ready, there's also the option to do carbonation. So not everybody does do carbonation, but again, some cideries will carbonate their beer, carbonate their ciders at that point. But that's if it's not already happened. Like, so sometimes there's just like a natural carbonation that happens as well when it goes into the bottles, or there's like a forced carbonation that takes place. So that's the potential of what can happen after. And then the final process, which is the filtration and packaging. So if the cider needs to be filtered, basically it gets filtered at that point. Not everybody will filter. That just depends on the cidery. And then, yeah, it gets packaged and enjoyed. So
Nice.
that is just a high level run through of what I got from the process. But yeah, I didn't want to start digging in too deep because I don't know enough about it. So yeah, shall we crack open the first one?
There you go. All right, you've got the bottle open now.
I'm really excited for this. Oh, Jaws literally just made me so pleased. I loved it. Glass. It feels like I had to get it out of a fancy glass or fancier glass. I feel like it had to be a stemmed glass.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just because the bottle itself feels fancy.
I very rarely now don't drink out of a stem glass.
I mean, yeah, me too. I feel like that is my MO in general. But
Did you have a look? What is there, like different steps to tasting a cider than there are a beer?
I didn't actually look at the tasting process. Actually,
I only just thought about it as
what we can do is we can maybe look it up before we do the bonus one.
Yes.
And then we will
be in our bonus episode.
Talk about it in the bonus episode.
If you want more in depth about yeasts and how to taste cider, you're gonna have to hop on over to coffee and grab the bonus.
I did get what I did get is I did get some notes. Actually, we can skip ahead. I can skip to that bit as well as we're tasting this of sort of the different key tasting terminology that's there. Yeah. So I didn't get too much about the actual tasting process and stuff, but I did get a high level of, like, you've got your bittersweet apples. So that apple varieties have they're high in tannins and they're low in acidity. Okay. So that's used to add complex flavours and astringency. So you've got your bitter sharp apples. So bitter sharp apple varieties are high in tannins and acidity levels, and that tends to be used to add balance and robust character to your ciders. And then you've got dessert apples, which, as you'd probably guess, they're primarily used for eating fresh, but they tend to be high in sugar, as one would assume, while being low in acidity. So those are often used to blend with other apple types just to add the sweetness into the cider. In terms of styles that you get there, you have a dry cider, which is ciders that are minimal. They have minimal residual sugars there. They are more crisp and they're less sweet in taste. You have a semi-dry cider. Those are they have moderate amounts of residual sugar, and the balance they kind of balance between balancing the sweetness and the acidity levels in there. Then you have sweet ciders, which obviously have high levels of residual sugar, and they just have a very pronounced sweetness and a fuller bodied mouthfeel. And then you have still ciders, and those are ones that are not carbonated and they lack any type of carbonation and bubbles to them at all. And I think those ones for me are the ones that I don't like as much. I'm not as much about the flat ones because it feels like it's missing something.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't put your finger on what it's missing, but you know it is missing something.
So hearing you read through those, I'm thinking I'm probably a sweet cider girl, but do you know what? My palate for very sweet things has kind of changed over time, so I may be lying to myself.
I think it depends on, like, my mood as well, because like sometimes, and it depends on that sweetness and what type of sweetness it is. So like for me, if it's just too sweet but in the wrong way, I'm not a fan. has to be the right type of sweetness for me. So how would you say?
So it's not quite clear. It's almost clear. So you can obviously tell that there's like fruit in it. Very yellow, no head. I'm doing this from a beer perspective as well, people. Like,
to be fair, I feel like I would view almost
fairly similar.
The way I'd view ciders as well. It's like I almost probably would. I wouldn't expect.
I wouldn't expect them to have a head. No.
I think it's kind of like when you have certain like sour beers as well that you just go like, there's not going to be a head on that, is there?
No. I'm getting what I would interpret as Brett. Very barnyardy.
Yep. That, and I would say like for me, this smells quite acidic.
Yeah.
But definitely, funky.
Yeah.
Funk. I feel like people that don't like horse blanket.
If you don't like horse blanket, this is not for you.
I love using that descriptor, horse blanket, especially because like some people get really wound up with it, and it makes me laugh so much.
I was reading somewhere as well, so like someone was just like, "Who knows what a horse blanket smells like?" And I'm like, "Someone's been around horses." Like,
but also you don't need to know. I feel like it's very clear what's getting on.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very descriptive word, like. And like people are like, oh, barnyard, and I'm like, but I've been in barnyards, and I'm like, that's what that smells like.
That is what it smells like.
You know, but again, it's that perception and the experiences you've had in your life, like, shape the things that you can then describe. So, you know, we've all had different experiences, so can attain different things.
I think going into the smell like quite intensely as well, like really going in, I feel like I'm getting woodiness to it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like barrel definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, cheers. Ticking this off my list. Thank you, Jules. Oh, that is really interesting. And not what I would have guessed what a cider would taste like. Like, I know what cider tastes like, and that is like no real. I mean, I would say the closest cider that's come to is probably just like the beer festival ciders that I've had.
Yeah, that's proper funky.
That is not like supermarket cider.
It's not supermarket cider. It is very dry. It
feels very
said
fancy.
that, didn't it? Let's have a look back through here. So what do we say? Super rich, sweet, spicy apple from Major. Juicy citrus from Browns. White Beech. Doesn't really say much about that. And then it was put into cognac, white Burgundy, and Chianti for mixed fermentation. So this says, right, hang on, I'm going to have another sip.
Yeah, you've got to kind of, because the taste has just changed slightly again as I've just had another sip. It's really complex to me because I feel like the evolution of the sip changes.
So I do get the fruit gums, like wine gums.
I don't know if I've ever had a wine.
No, you wouldn't like a wine gum because you've got to chew it.
No, I like gummies. I like gummy bears.
No, but a wine gum is
it like a Starburst level
chewy.
of chewing?
Yeah, it's more chewy than a gummy. You wouldn't like it.
Genuinely, like I don't mind chewy things. It's like but like gummy bears are okay. It's when you get to the Starbucks level of chewing that I'm like, that's when I get bored.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't like a wine gum. But there's a certain flavour in a wine gum that I'm definitely getting from that. Sweet and perfumey nose. Ripe peach, honey, and lemon blossom.
I think I could get the perfumey.
I just get funk and wood.
See, I think when I do the drive-by.
When you do the drive-by?
When I do the drive-by. I love using that phrase so much. When I do the drive-by, I get the perfumey.
You know what? When I do a breathe out, I get orange. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get like orange peel.
Yeah, I'd say peel for sure.
Yeah. Like the pith.
Yep. Yeah, if you didn't say that, I probably wouldn't have noticed it. So I don't know if I'm noticing it because you've said it.
I think so. That to me is coming from the browns, apples, sweet, spicy.
I don't really get a spicy to it. I had to go back in for another sip in it because maybe
I might just be getting it now because I read it.
It's hard because I
think
can't.
It's in with the funk.
That's that is kind of what I was trying to like
Yeah.
separate, and it's really hard to
I don't
separate
think you can.
the funky flavours out. So it might just be one of those things that's just sort of like hidden in the flavours.
It's definitely interesting.
I feel like this is something that like, so like even from the bottle, if you watch the video, you can see it's a 750ml bottle, and it just looks almost like a wine. Like the artwork on it looks like a wine label artwork, and obviously it doesn't look like wine, but like physically in the colour and its appearance. But I think it's something that I would probably treat this one the same as I'd be more likely to treat this like a wine than I would treat it like a beer.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I know that obviously there's some beers that I would treat more like a wine, especially the funky ones.
Yeah.
But I think for me it's like easier for me to make this connection to a wine than it is for me to make that connection to a beer, which is it's just really, it is interesting in terms of flavour, and I feel like that flavour sort of evolves in your mouth and you get so many different things that are like so hard to separate out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
I feel like this would pair really well with food.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, so I did look at food pairings.
Oh yeah.
So I guess the thing about fine ciders is that they are known as the type of drink that is pretty food friendly.
Yeah.
Because they have such diverse flavour profiles that pretty much it means that they can be paired with a wide variety of dishes pretty much. So some of the guidance that I got in terms of specifically what to pair it with. So you can do, like when it comes to cheese, so the acidity and carbonation that you'd get from one would cut through sort of the richness of a creamy cheese, like a brie or a camembert. If you've got one that has like a little bit more fruity notes to it, and more sort of tannins, those go better with aged cheddars and blue cheeses.
Like a chutney, like it's replacing that like fruit chutney that you'd have on your cheese board.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever think. I don't think I thought about it that way when I sort of made the note on it, but that is pretty spot on.
That's a very good Cicero note right there.
All right. Some of us are not Cicero.
If you're studying your Cicero and think of things that can replace bits, so a fruity cider is going to replace that chutney on your plate. So
that is a really interesting way to think about it, to be fair. When it comes to seafood, so those with higher acidity levels as well will go with seafood dishes quite well. So for example, specifically like shellfish. I don't eat seafood, so to me it doesn't matter what it goes well with. I'm not gonna have it, so that's fine. Roasted meats. Now I think you definitely like more specifically pork and turkey, and I think if you think about it, pork, you tend to have like applesauce with it, don't you?
Yeah, because they're slightly like air quotes sweeter meat. Like I don't like this. I wouldn't put with nicely barbecued beef or anything like that. But that Maillard reaction that you get with that, where you get that lovely like caramelized bit, that is going to go better with a beer because you get that balance of those flavours. This, you want it with something like pork where you're going to pull out the sweetness of the meat. And that's what they say about seafood actually, is that some of the more acidic beers are good with seafood because they pull out the sea sweetness.
Interesting. That's a fun
right?
word.
That was something that we were all like, what? When we were doing our Cicero training, there's a sea sweetness that acidity and freshness can pull out of seafood. So that's why cider would go well.
That's the kind of sweetness that I don't like. Sea sweetness. I'm good with sea sweetness. But yeah, so I mean, when I thought of it, I thought about just like pork with. I sort of inadvertently did that thing that you did, which was replace it on the plate. Yeah. And I was like, well, you'd replace the applesauce with it. Guest visitor in the house.
Faylin's come.
She's got free range. She's a free range dog, so she's come in. But yeah, so like in terms of roasted meats in general, it's basically they complement the rich and caramelized flavors that you get from a roast. But also ciders that are sweeter can enhance the savoury elements in a roast as well. So that's kind of how they go with the roasty. When it comes to spicy foods, they can actually help cool down the heat and add some contrast to that spice. So they are meant to be quite good with spicy foods. So I guess if you had like a really spicy curry or something like that, that might be quite good. You're like, I need to cool that down. Let's have that.
Yeah.
I guess it would probably depend on what is in that curry on whether or not it would work. But just in general, spice notes, it's meant to help remove that heat. And then it was what I thought was quite interesting as well, was like apple-based desserts it can work really well with. So I feel like that's the opposite of beer though, isn't it? Because sometimes if you have too much of a similar flavour, they just don't work together. Whereas like with
I was thinking that because
desserts.
when I was drinking this, I was like, I feel like it would go really well with an apple tart. But like an apple tart can be quite sweet, whereas this has got a lovely dryness to it. So maybe it's just kind of, it would pull out that apple flavoury bit.
Yeah, so it's really that sort of, they can harmonise quite well with their shared flavours because like there's the acidity in the cider that cuts through the sweetness of the dessert. So they're each like, while they're both apple and apple flavourings, they are very much they are very much having similar flavours but with the different notes that sort of work together really well. But I thought that was interesting because I feel like there's not that much to mention when it comes to differences in beer in the sense of two flavours. Like you don't tend to get a chocolate, like we're not replicating a chocolate flavour and then having it in a dessert and then it just cancels each other out, like we found with the vocation ones. So so that's what happened with the, that's how that works quite well with the dessert side of things. And then obviously it's like, charcuterie, that's obvious. I feel like game, salads I thought was quite interesting, and dark chocolate. So apparently they pair really well with apparently they pair really well with salads.
Because they're quite light, I suppose. You tend to want something light with a salad because the flavours in it are quite delicate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I thought was interesting because you very rarely, like, you don't really get beers that are like, this is a salad beer. Like, you don't tend to go...
You do when you're learning about doing your Cicerone training.
But you don't...
Because that's a really good, like, a chicken salad with something like a gose or, a gose, particularly because the gose, like it's got that little bit of almost vinegar, like white wine vinegariness to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The spritziness, like if you've got cheese on your salad, it's going to cut through that. Yeah, like a beer and salad pairing is actually a good tip.
But I feel like these are things that, like, yes, you might know if you're doing like a Cicerone thing, but from like just an everyday perspective, you don't go to like a pub and then they go, normally they'd go like,
beer with your salad.
If anyone was going to offer recommendations of like what to pair things with food wise, they don't tend to go like, and with our salads, here's the ones that pair best with our salads. Like that doesn't tend to happen.
Like, they shouldn't be employing Cicerones.
But I think that's really interesting. Some people do just like, they want to enjoy beer and then they want something to eat. Like if you're out and about and you're having a lunch or something, you want something to eat, but you don't necessarily. You don't necessarily want something too filling.
No.
It's like, you might want something that's going to pair with the salads. So there you go, ciders pair with salads. Fine ciders anyways. But yeah, the dark chocolate thing threw me off. It's just interesting.
Any particular one with dark chocolate?
No, just sort of said like with some chocolates, especially like dark chocolate. And I
suppose if you've got with this, I was picking up that orange. I suppose if you've got a little bit of that kind of citrusy flavour in it, that could go quite well with the dark. I know you hate that, but she hates chocolate orange. But I
would literally hate that. That's my actual nightmare. It's like having to also drink it. I mean, I have purposely bought
dark chocolate goes really well with like certain IPAs that have got an orangey note to them. So, yeah.
Yeah, those are all my I was going to say my beer and food pairings, and my cider.
And
it's hard to like not instinctively. It's hard to not instinctively say beer. So overall, if we were to kind of go back to what we've done with cocktails, about would you recommend this to a whomever drinker? I kind of feel like, would I recommend this to like a strongbow drinker? Probably not. I don't know if they'd enjoy that.
I don't think they'd appreciate it.
Would I recommend it to I'd recommend it to a wine drinker probably.
Yeah. And
certain types of wine.
I'd probably recommend it to someone who enjoyed funky beers. Like,
that wanted to get into ciders, that were like, how do I get into that? Definitely someone that enjoys funk.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool, that's that one.
Yeah.
Next up, shall we move on? I've taken out the Three Hills glassware and everything.
Dun, dun, dun. We've got the really good glasses.
The nice
you've got
glassware.
2 now. Did you buy 2 when we got there?
I did.
Did
I bought a set in the end.
Oh. Because we got these originally from the Outpost on Bermondsey when they first opened.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, these are nice glasses. Can we buy those? Yes, we can.
I think I might have bought one the first time.
Yeah.
And then I might have bought one again the second time. I either bought the set. I can't remember if I bought the set the first time round or if I bought one when they first opened.
I feel like we only bought one each when we were there.
And then I think I bought it again when we went back the second time. I was like, I need another one. Then I bought another one.
But side note, talking about Bermondsey, we were having a debate at work the other day about which end is the beginning of Bermondsey.
Is there really a beginning?
I mean, no, but like I think someone was saying,
which should I start at? Which house?
Yeah, because I was just like, well, where are you starting? And they were like, we're at the beginning, and I was like, well, where's the beginning? And I was like, at like London Beer Factory. Is it London Beer Factory? Or is it Full Pure? Is one end.
I don't know.
I've started
gone there.
I've started at Southwark, and then done Ansbach and Hobday and gone that way.
I would say Ansbach and Hobday because that's the closest to the Bermondsey station.
Yeah,
so I find the start is whatever's.
And then you go Cloudwater. Used to be BB&O, but they've shut now. Round to Colonel, and then along to Three Hills and Spartan and whatever else is down that end now. After what things are closed, but someone was like, "Oh no, the end's Colonel," and I'm like, "It's not. You're missing out the other." I was like, "You've got to keep going because there's more down the other end." And
I guess
like,
it's because there is like such a you hit a point where there is a bit.
I was
of
like, Colonel's
separation.
the middle.
Yeah, I'd consider the start definitely
Ansbach and Hobday end.
Only because that's the closest to the station.
Yeah,
but
depends on what end you want to start at.
Yeah, I guess it depends on where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, that was a fun conversation that we had at work the other day.
Interesting. Shall we? Which one should we do first? So we've got the Spirit of Nature of the Grand. How is it? Lopin?
Lopin, yeah.
Grand Lopin barrel aged cider.
Oh.
Or there's the Apple Brandy Triple Sec and Sherry barrel aged cider, that sounds.
Are they all the same? ABV? 7.5. That one's 6.5.
And that's a barrel aged one, mixed
cider
firm
mixed firm blend.
I almost fit that one. These two are the same ABVs, and this one's lower ABV. And I almost think that's probably the better one to start at, because that's just a barrel aged cider.
Yeah.
/ mixed firm blend. So that feels like that's probably going to be the most straightforward of them. So let's start.
So these are cider blends that Three Hills have done with Saxby's. They just sounded really interesting, so we thought
we kind of were like, it would be really interesting to get these, and then I sort of like, I almost put in. I think I was deciding where I put my order in, and then I was like, I don't know if I should. And then I ended up doing a mix where I had to get some from Three Hills and some from a different order that we were doing all together.
Yeah.
But I was like keen to get all of them, so I was like, let's be good.
And of course, we are using proper glassware with our Outpost.
Well, I could not. It feels.
That's very fizzy.
Yeah. I wonder how much this is going to be cider compared to beer. You know what?
Ooh.
That's got some... Because there's no actual bits in it. So this is just really cloudy and yours is not cloudy.
That smells like apples.
It does. Let me smell yours though, because yours doesn't have all the... No, it is the same. Sorry, I was just checking. But that didn't...
That just smells like apple juice.
And it looks like cloudy apple.
On the can, it says a uniquely blended portion of our wood-aged mixed fermented sour stock with more barrel-aged Saxby cider. Crisp, refreshing and suitably funky. We will see.
It almost smells a bit like toffee. Like, I feel like mine smells almost a bit like toffee.
I think I know what you mean.
Like a toffee apple.
Yeah, I see what you
Weirdly.
mean. Because it's very sweet smelling.
Yeah. It does smell like toffee apple though, it's a bit weird.
That does not taste like it smells.
No. That is really...
It's dry.
Yeah, really dry. It tastes like it's going to be really sweet.
Yeah, it smells like it's going to be really sweet, and then it isn't. It's really dry. It's got that kind of carbonic bite about it.
I feel like there's a bit of woodiness in it.
Yeah.
I almost get a bit, like, weirdly, this is going to sound really weird, and it might not make sense, but I almost get, like, a bit of, like, coconut in there.
Okay.
Like, in the back end of it.
I felt like I just tasted orange juice.
But I'm wondering if that's, like, has to do with some of, like, the wood element to it, of, like, what's coming off from the wood.
Yeah.
So this one says, founded in 2017, Three Hills Brewing is a highly experimental, independent small batch brewery committed to creating interesting, tasty and innovative drinks for you to enjoy. A uniquely blended portion of our wood-aged mixed fermented sour stock with a more barrel-aged Saxby cider, crisp, refreshing and suitably funky. I actually don't get that much funk in it, if I'm honest.
No. There's acidity from the sour stock, I would say. But it just kind of reminds me of juice.
I think, yeah, it's...
Which is dangerous at 6.5% OBS.
I think there is definitely funkiness, but I think the funkiness is just... It tastes a bit, for me, it tastes like sparkling apple.
Yeah. I think after having it after the little Pomona, which was very complex, this feels much more simple in its flavour profile.
Not in a... I feel
not
like...
In
not in a way that's like boring.
Yeah.
In a way that is just... It is straight to the point.
Yeah.
Like, there's no...
Like, I can imagine people drinking, like, potentially this in quantity because it's simple.
More, for some people, it would be, like, more palatable as well. If they're used to drinking cider normally and not so much... Or if they're used to drinking beer and sessioning... Basically, like, sessioning a beer, if that's what they're used to, their drinking habits, this is definitely probably more that.
Bitterness about it as well.
It's just really like, it just is really interesting in the way of how straightforward, like the difference between the aroma and then the taste.
Yeah.
And what that taste actually is, and it's very dry, like extremely dry.
Yeah, very dry.
It like leaves your mouth.
A little bit of sweetness isn't in it though. I would like it to be a little bit more sweet.
I would agree that I think if there was like a little touch of sweetness, it would be nice.
Personal preference.
But yeah, that's just 'cause, like we said, we enjoy.
Yeah.
And this is actually sort of us being like, what? We don't normally drink cider.
Yeah.
So like discovering what we like, and we're just thinking about it in the ways that we normally would have a beer. Yeah. I think this is good though. Like, I feel like this would be, for me, really good to pair with food, for sure. Just in line with, like, I can see having this with a meal.
Yeah.
More so, like, not that the other one couldn't, because as I said, like, I feel like that is a fancy thing. You'd pair it like you would wine. But I feel like that would be more of like it's a fancy occasion.
Yeah.
Get out that bottle. Whereas, like, this feels like it's definitely an elevated cider compared to your Strongbows of the world, your Magnas of the world, whatever. But I feel like I could casually have this with a meal in a pub, and it wouldn't need to be like a special occasion.
No,
I'd be like, that is
particularly paired with anything.
I feel like this would personally. I feel like this would go with like quite a lot of things that I would eat fairly well. So, and it wouldn't take anything away from the food.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
I'm excited to sort of try the other one.
I want to do a breathe out and see if that adds more of that sweetness to it.
I think because it smelled like that toffiness, I almost wanted a bit of like toffee apple.
Yeah. No, you don't even get it when you do the breathe out. There's a little bit of that kind of toffiness. Maybe kind of lingering on your tongue if you really think about it. But you have to really think about it.
I think I just get the woodiness more than anything else, like that.
Interesting.
Wood.
I'm glad I tried it.
I'm excited to see what the other ones are like, especially the apple brandy, triple sec and sherry barrel. That one to me is the one that I'm like really, really excited about.
Do you want to save that till last, or you want
Let's
to do
save
it
that
next?
one to last, because I feel like that one will be potentially more more complex, I think, than maybe the other one, which is the Grand Lopin Barrel Age. That's just straightforward, like not straightforward, but I feel like that one has the ability to be more straightforward than when you've got multiple barrels involved.
True.
Cool, let's go that one then.
Okay.
next one up, what would we say? It was the Grand Lopin.
Yeah, whichever one.
Someone will correct us, you know, and go,
Yeah,
it's like,
that's not how you say it.
that's not how you say it. You should have Googled how to say it. Guess what? I didn't. So, suck it.
Please let us know how to pronounce it if we are doing it wrong. But we don't care.
Ooh, this one looks different.
Oh, yeah. This one arguably looks more like a beer.
Yeah. So you can see there's actually head on this one. Yeah, no, this one definitely looks more like you'd expect from a beer.
Wait, mine
Look at these like slow moving like carbies.
Mine is, yeah, no, I have got the slow motion carbonation bubbles.
I was going to say the thing you were translating, slow motion carbies. I went, look at those slow motion carbies, and you were like, yes, I too have slow motion carbonation bubbles. Look at them, like this looks like a reverse snow globe.
I've not got as many. Look, mine's not got as many.
Oh, mate.
You got the better glass.
How do I
dear.
I just blindly gave you one.
No, I know. It's fun. You know, I'm not saying that you're sabotaging my cider or anything.
I'm not a cider saboteur. Can we call this episode Cider Saboteur? I don't even want to smell it. This is too entrancing. It's hypnotic. I feel like, you know, I said brewery ASMR needed to be a thing. I think if you were going to put like a video on that is to like fall asleep to, it would definitely be this. Just zooming in on this and yeah.
This has an interesting smell.
I feel like this smells more like what I expect a cider to smell like. I mean, you could chop that up if you want, see if there's more carbies hidden in there.
More carbies.
They're still going!
I tried hardboarding for mine. No,
look, the carbies are going. They're going.
Not as good as yours though.
Mine's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, I'll let you do the pleasures of reading the back
right,
of this
so
one.
Back in 2021, we selected 1,000 litres of Saxby's fine cider to be aged in 4 different wine and spirits barrels. Having frequently tasted the individual barrels over the last 2 years, we decided this Loire Valley red wine barrel could only be released as a single barrel due to its truly unique vinous and oak top notes.
Ooh.
Is that what I'm getting?
I'm not, because I feel like I say no until you've read that, and now that you've read that, I'm like, yes, but I don't know if that's my brain. I feel like to me, this smelled like more of a traditional, not when I say traditional, I mean more like
strong
real ale. No, like it smells more like the real ale, like like that cider equivalent to me. There is like a bit of funkiness to it for me. There is a bit of that. This is more in line with what I think of when I think of having cider at a beer festival, for example.
Okay, so I think the previous one smelt more like my perception of cider. I feel like from this, I'm getting marshmallow, but that must mean that it must be vanillin from the barrel.
I was going to say I think when you say marshmallow, I get what you're saying, but for me it comes across more as like a vanilla-y sweetness. Yeah. So I think you're probably right there. And it's just like a touch of sweetness in the aroma. Yeah. So like I'm not, but then going by the last two and their aromas versus their taste, I genuinely don't know what to expect from it.
I get apple and I get some funk.
I get heavy apple.
And I get some wood.
Heavy apple, funk, like is what's shouting at me the most. Yeah. And then the wood kind of like in there, and I think supporting in the back, and I think that some of those other small sweetness.
Right, I always do this hand to like supporting in the back. And then I think about it, I feel like it's like I'm supporting somebody's bum. I'm like,
that's a visual thing. If you're only listening, you're not going to see.
You're not going to see what that means. You'll have to.
You're not going to see the slow moving carbies. See if I can capture that.
Yeah,
they're still going, guys.
Mine are not.
You go watch the video. You're not going to see the carbies.
I'm going to taste this now.
People are going to be so mad that I've said that, and they're going to be like, "Don't you ever fucking call carbonation bubbles carbies again?" I don't know how to feel. Not in a bad way.
I feel like I like this one the most so far. I'm getting that like that
I think this has more sweetness to it as well.
Yeah, the
but
toffee apple smell that was from the one before, I feel like is in the taste of this one.
Oh, I'm not getting toffee. For me, I'm not getting the toffee.
A marshmallow.
It
Getting
is
that vanillin sweetness.
It is dry, but also has like very noticeable carbonation.
Yeah.
In it.
Cleans palate.
It does sort of, that dryness sort of does land in like a sparkling wine type way.
Yeah, it does.
And there is a sweetness, but it's not sweet. It's just, I think it's that balance. Like there is more balance between the sweet, a little bit of like, not tartness because it's not tart, but I think that they're like smaller levels of everything, but it's not as extreme as what we experience with beer.
Yeah.
So it is really interesting and it is quite well balanced in that way.
I like this one the best. This is my fave so far.
I think this one's my favourite so far, but this is the one that I personally could probably drink the most of in a session.
Same.
But I think
bearing in mind it's 7.5%.
It doesn't taste 7.5%.
No, it doesn't.
I don't see. This is the thing.
I don't think any of these have
none of these taste their ABV. So so the little Pomona, it's worth saying that's 7.3% because I don't think we said it.
No, I don't think we did.
I don't think we said it on the recording anyway.
No.
7.3%, and that definitely didn't taste anywhere near 7%.
No.
The last, the just barrel aged cider that we had from Three Hills, the last one, that's 6.5%. Again, like I don't feel like that tasted 6.5%. I would say it probably like if you told me 5s, I'd go, oh, okay, yeah, fine, up to maybe even 6, but like it doesn't feel like it's over 6, sort of in that ballpark. And this one, 7.5%, does not taste 7.5%.
No. I like this one.
I feel like this is like a
Not that I didn't
sitting
like
out in the sun.
I particularly am enjoying this one.
I do like that. And I think maybe as well, for me, the carbonation level is more noticeable in this one.
Yes.
Out of all of them. So I feel like for me, that carbonation and the aftertaste for me is those like wood notes.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like, there is complexity in it to a degree. I wouldn't say it's like, so far I still think like Little Pomona is so far the most complex because there were so many flavours evolving and changing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then I felt like the last Three Hills one was like a no frills, just, well made sort of cider. And then I feel like this one is sort of that middle ground where there's some complexity to it in that there is sort of a roller coaster of flavours to me.
Yeah.
It's like, because at the end you're like, oh, is it done? No. Oh, I'm left with like this, the barrel, the flavours from the barrel is kind of what's like sticking with me.
Yeah, it's really
at the end of it. That it's just, I feel like that is the one that sits sort of in the middle in terms of complexities. And it's just really, it's
I don't know if we said as well, but it's also quite dark. It's much darker in colour. Like it's a proper like gold colour.
I'd say definitely less hazy. It's definitely more clear than the other.
And yours is, mine isn't. Mine's hazy.
Ooh, interesting.
Only very slightly, but
mine's fairly clear.
Mine's a similar clearness to the Little Pomona.
That is, I quite like this one. So
yeah, I like this one a lot.
Right, should we go into the third one then and just see how the third one stacks up?
Racking up beers here. You don't normally see this. Normally these are off to one side when we're doing our recording.
Face them forward so you can at least have something nice to look at.
Saving them so we can do our beer notes afterwards. I like this glass.
I think this was Reading. This was a Reading festival one. I don't know. So like
2015.
So we can go back to we had our Through the Beer Glass episode. We did, sort of talked about beer glasses. And like stories that have to go with beer glasses. Now I can tell you with these Reading beer glasses, I'm fairly certain these were like not actually the beer glasses of that year. I have the beer glasses of that year, which was 2015.
Yeah.
I think this was the wine glasses. So basically what would happen is like you would go, so we lived in Reading, I think we lived in Reading at this time in 2015. I can't remember now. Can't remember when we moved out of Reading. But like basically because we were the people that lived in Reading and then all of our friends had either moved out of Reading or just we were the closest ones physically to it. So we'd go. They eventually split Reading into a day session and an evening session. I remember when I first moved here, it was just like a whole Saturday, like whole ruckus. Yeah. And then they split it into 2 separate sessions, as they normally do with beer festivals now. And that's happened for quite some time. So we'd go to the day session, day drink. We'd go out afterwards. We'd go to dinner afterwards somewhere. Half cut, as you do, casually. I think we went to like Nando's one year. Rick was not impressed because he was like not a Nando's person. Because he's like, if I want chicken, I will make chicken. And he's just like, I'm not
really a Nando's
He's
person.
like, and I agree to. I enjoy Nando's if that's what's being ordered.
No shame. Enjoy yourself a Nando's if that's what you like.
I think that's it. Yeah, no shade there or anything. But also, he's very much like, it's chicken though. Yeah. I'll just make chicken. Right, yeah. So yeah, I remember like we went out after. We either went to like Turtle, or we went to go play pool at one point, I think. And what happens is at these festivals, you tend to like pay a deposit for the glass, then you can either keep the glass or you can return it. I think for a while you used to just get it, and then they changed it so that you would get your deposit back if you got the glasses back. But no one ever did because like no one could be asked to do that. But then also,
I would do it if it was a plastic glass because I was like, I ain't keeping no plastic glass.
These ones are always glass. Yeah. They're always glass. And like nobody could be asked to go and return it. But equally, once they actually started going out, nobody could be asked to hold on to their glass. Yeah. Obviously, being the lady in the group, the lady that I am, I'd have a bag, and then they'd be like, "Oh, can you just hold on to these and put them in your bag?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And the whole intention was for me to give it back to them at the end of the night. And then nobody would remember. They'd all forget. And then no one would want them back. Yeah. So we've accumulated so many glasses. I think that's how we got these. Is like somebody must have
had wine,
like wine or something, and gave oh, can you hold on to these? And then never took them back. Because that's the only way I can even think that I would have ended up with. Because they're normally pint glasses. They're normally just straight like pint glasses. Yeah. And I think we've got ones that have this design on it. It's just a straight pint glass. But yeah. Nice. These moved houses with us, and then eventually when like people needed glasses, like a nephew moved in to his house near uni, and nieces moving. Like, oh, you need pots and pans? Do you need glasses? Yeah.
Please take some.
Have some glasses. Yes, please. And it's all. I think we got rid of. We did a charity shop because we'd have like 5 or 6 of the same one. I've kept like 1 of each glass or 2 of each glass. And then
usually if I end up with 2 glasses at a beer festival, 1 goes to you if we weren't there together.
I mean, I didn't think you really wanted.
No. I mean, 2015, we didn't even know each other. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I think like I wouldn't even think. I think I got rid of some of them more recently as well. I wouldn't assume that you wanted a 2015 Reading beer festival.
If Gordon and I now go to a beer festival and you're not there, then he's like, "This glass is for Tori."
Unfortunately, Rick is not as generous as Gordon because Rick's like, "That's my glass."
Yeah, Rick keeps his.
But if I get an extra one, like if I'm working at a beer festival and I've got 2, I'm like, you can have it.
Usually we end up together though.
Yeah, that's normally it, isn't it? Right, let's open this one. I'm really excited.
Apple brandy, triple sec, and sherry. Oh, it's gone back to a pale colour again. Very fizzy.
Get that ASMR in. Look at those carb bubs. Those carbies.
It's going to be a new thing now.
Only because I know it's going to, so many people are going to listen to this. I'm going to get complaints. I'm going to have people going, I couldn't listen to it because you just kept saying carbies. And I just want to let you know, like, stuff like that, like at work, I shortened the word platinum to platty, and that wound up one of mine, and he's like, no, immediately no. And then I just ignored him saying no, and I continued to call it that, because I was like, now that I know that's wound you up, I think that's even funnier now. So yeah. Very far less carbonation bubbles, but still very, like, I find it really interesting when they're slow moving, because it's just, they just go so slowly. You're like, how does that happen? It looks magical.
Very appley.
Again, I feel like this smells very similar to that one.
Yeah,
right, and this is the clearest out of all of them, actually.
An intriguing blend. Yeah, it is. An intriguing blend of 2-year-old spirit barrel-aged ciders. Expect funk and oak with subtle notes of orange and vanilla.
I would say
I was definitely getting the vanilla.
Funk, yes. Yeah. Orange, yes. Vanilla, yes. Orange, I don't know if I get orange.
I don't know if I get orange.
But definitely vanilla. But I feel like it is a vanilla that's like a barrel.
Yeah, barrel. A vanillin.
A vanillin.
That comes from the wood in a barrel.
It's definitely more of a vanillin than it is like straight vanilla.
It's the chemical that you get from it being in wood.
Yeah, I don't get orange.
I don't get orange. Maybe I will in the taste. Alright, I'm going in.
Ooh.
Again, I feel like this one needs a few sips to acclimatise yourself.
Just. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting anything from those barrels specifically. Like in addition to what we had in the previous one.
I think the previous one I must have a little bit more sweetness to it.
Yeah, definitely.
This one doesn't have that sweet. It's, for me,
this one's much drier.
This lands the same except without the sweetness.
Yeah.
But again, we're saying that as people that are...
we're not cider.
We are not cider people, so I bet that there are people that are more into cider that would be like, actually, I think you'll find this, and this.
And I feel like this one tastes more alcoholic. But I mean, I suppose I do. I think this one tastes more alcoholic, but then also it's been in 3 different spirit barrels, so...
I guess it maybe it does. It does. I do actually get sort of that... Like, it does land in a way of, like, you're having something with a spirit in it. Because it's not... I wouldn't call it an alcohol burn.
Like, maybe a bit of warmth. I don't even know if I'd describe it as that.
I wouldn't describe it as warmth, but it's hard for me to know how to describe it because it's not an alcohol burn, it's not an alcohol warmth.
But my brain goes, ooh, alcohol.
Yeah, agree. But it's interesting how this one compared to all of them. So like even the ones that were clear, felt like they had mostly it was mostly clear, but a little bit of shadow. It's like you couldn't, if you were looking through, like you'd see your finger out the other side, but it would be a little bit shaded.
Yeah, like there was obviously fruit particle, like not chunks, like particles isn't even the word, like no. But there's like, you know how when juice has got a little bit of a haze, not even a haze, like it's just not clear because there's obviously fruit in it. Like that's how the others were. This is crystal.
I feel like if you had like something painted on your nail, on the other ones you'd probably see a shadow or something, you wouldn't be able to make it out. But yeah, like I can see you've got glittery nails.
I've got glittery nails and you can see it through it.
You can see the chip in my nail polish.
I can look
annoyingly
it and I can see the bubbly knot head on the top.
I can see us on camera through it. Whereas like the other one, I feel like you'd see a little bit, like you'd know that there was something there,
but it wouldn't be as
clear. Crystal clear. Whereas this is overall just more crystal clear, which is really interesting because I wonder sort of like
how that one ended up clearing up more than the other two.
Yeah. Especially like for me compared to the first one of the Three Hills, where that one is like really very like
hazed.
The other one, it is clear, but it has a little bit more of the tinge to it.
Yes. Interesting.
That is interesting. Let's have a few more sips of it before we sort of decide our final feelings on it. Because this one, I arguably would say, this is going to sound really weird, but I almost find that it's very complex because it's not complex. Like I found it not complex. I find it complicated to explain.
Yes. Because
there's not really a lot I can liken it to. It's really hard to get the words for it.
I feel like I'm struggling to explain what it tastes like. And that's very odd for me, because usually I can attest it to something.
Yeah.
And I feel like in this I'm like, I don't know how to put that into words. Yeah, definitely.
That's how I'm feeling. So while we take it in a little bit, I have a few little bits of cider making lingo that I thought I could run you through. So obviously I've already done cidery and cider maker, basically where the cider is made and by whom. But one I thought was really interesting was pomology. So pomology is the study of apples and other fruit-bearing plants. I didn't know that.
Because they are pomme fruits.
Yeah, but I thought that was really interesting. And in French, I think pomme is apple, isn't it? Yeah. P-O-M-M-E. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Didn't know that was a thing.
When you're doing, like, side note while we're on terminology, when you're do. I keep pulling out the Cicerone training today, but it feels like this is
Go for
a
it.
good place to do it. Like, you know how people say stone fruit?
Yeah.
And that kind of covers a lot of different fruits. One of the terms that we learn in Cicerone is pom fruit. So that kind of covers apples, pears.
See, like when
things
when you say pom fruit, like as a non-Cicerone, like so I can take my non-Cicerone brain into this, my non-certified brain into this. I would be like, if you said pom fruit, I'd think like pomegranate. I think like my brain would go, oh, pomegranate.
My brain goes pom bears. And I start thinking about crisps, which is not the right thing at all.
I don't feel like I would go apples and all that.
Apple,
like I wouldn't automatically do that. But
No,
I think with
yeah.
like pomology, because I know French for apple,
Yeah.
is probably the one thing.
Yeah.
I failed French like numerous times over.
Oh, I passed French. You know, my French started to come back when I was in Paris the other week.
I passed Italian. I did not pass French.
Makes sense.
Didn't just no. But yeah, but I think because I at least retained that.
Yeah.
I think that I'm like, oh, pomology, that makes sense. But I thought that was, I'd still think like probably apple based, and I wouldn't have thought like overall fruit bearing plants in general. But that was interesting. There's also what is known as must, which is the base for cider. So that is, aka, is just the extracted juice from the apples and pears. So
I've heard the term grape must, I think.
yes, that's the extracted.
Because I've heard of that being added to beer.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is a must. I hadn't heard of that before, but it's referenced quite a lot when you look up sort of cider making. There's back sweetening, which is adding sweetness to balance the tartness for the cider and increase its sweetness. So yeah, I'm gonna guess. I didn't look up a lot into it, but what I'm gonna probably guess that happens is like by the point it's added, it's when you know that it's probably not gonna be particularly sweet based on what you put in there, or you're going to want it sweeter, so
I feel like
then the apples are going to give you.
I feel like we talked a little bit about back sweetening when we were doing white wine as well.
Yeah, we might have done.
When we were doing sparkling wine, I think they kind of back sweeten some of those.
The last one I've got, which I'm not sure if this is pronounced right or not, is Lees.
Lees, yeah.
Yep, cool, I did say it right then.
Yeah, I mean that's how I've said it. We could both be very wrong.
We could both be wrong. But yeah, that's the sediment or the settled solids at the bottom of the container after fermentation.
Ooh, so I think we have got one that we're going to do maybe a little bonus about. Daya did a series of beers.
Teaser. This is why you want to go on coffee.
With Little Pomona, and some of theirs were rested on the lees from pear cider, from Perry, I think. I think they might have used lees and pomace in different ones. So, yeah, I had heard that term before, but I didn't know what it was.
I had never heard that term before.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. Because, like, normally we would just go like, oh, there's sediment in it. We wouldn't be like...
That's interesting.
There's that word. I mean, I didn't know, certainly. If there was a word for it, I mean, I didn't use that word for it.
I'll be interested to know what the pomace adds compared to what the lees add. Like, how do you choose whether you're going to use pomace or whether you're going to use lees? What,
in the sense of like what Daya did?
Yeah. Because the lees is the sediment that's left over afterwards.
So that is the sediment and the solids that are left at the bottom after the fermentation. So like in Daya's case, like why would they choose that?
The lees
whereas
rather
the pomace, which is
the squished up bit,
effectively the squished up bit before you extract it.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to look more into the Daya stuff.
Yeah.
So if only we had some.
Maybe we do. I think we do have one because it was a series of 3. And I think I bought the one that I hadn't had yet because I've had 2 of them.
Yeah. You think you bought that, or you don't know? You'll
find out. You have to check it on coffee.
You'll have to follow us on coffee, I guess.
Yep.
Find out. Spoiler. Yeah. How are you feeling? Like having more sips of this?
I think I still like the previous one the best.
I think this might be my second favourite though. But I don't know. I'm saying that, not really remembering.
I'm getting honey from it now.
I think there is just something. It tastes to me like. It definitely tastes more boozy. It definitely tastes like spirit.
Yeah. I feel like it's too appley for me, if that makes sense.
It does have, I think this one and the last one did have more sort of just straight apple taste in it, like more sparkling apple. So I feel like this carbonation is lower than the previous carbonation, so it tastes less like sparkling apple and more just like apple with a little, like with some spirit somehow, like some type of more cocktaily type situation. But yeah, that's that one. Yeah. Should we have our final one?
I'm excited for this one because this is the gose.
I also want to point out on this, men and women are advised not to regularly drink more than 14 units a week. Just FYI. Just in case.
Drink responsibly, yo.
Drink responsibly. Alright, I'll let you do the pouring of this one. I'm not a saboteur. I'm not a cider saboteur.
Oh, it smells fun. Why is that funny? You nearly spat your water
smells
out.
fun. I'll have you know I'm using the podcast.
The podcast?
That is my favourite.
I know, you love that one.
I love it so much. Even though I've had a replacement.
I was so annoyed that it wasn't
but
right.
I genuinely love it more.
I was like,
because it just says the podcast. And that is like, which one? I don't know. You need the other one to find out.
Right. So this is Hogans Goes Against the Grain cider. 100% fresh pressed, it says on the front. Goes Against the Grain is a minerally, saline, sour, lip-licking, delicious cider. Hints of the seaside, the gose style accentuates our cider's appliness. We've taken our Brettanomyces fermented cider with its farmyard notes and sharp overtones and included a little Cornish sea salt to bring out the character of this lovely cider. Enjoy. We love it. Toot toot that own horn, Hogans. Yes.
For a second as you said that, I thought you were reading that. I thought you were like, toot toot.
We love it. Good.
I think I can tell you what I think it smells like.
Yeah.
It smells like, I don't want to ruin it. Do you have an idea in your head of what you describe it as?
I mean, it smells like mineral salt and barnyard.
It does, but do you know how I would describe it?
No.
Popcorn. It smells to me.
It smells like popcorn.
It smells to me like popcorn.
It doesn't smell like popcorn.
Like salted popcorn.
Oh no, it doesn't smell like that to me.
I think it's I think that's the grainy element to me. It's like translating in a popcorny way. But yeah, It is definitely, I'm getting the sort of...
Getting a lot of Brett. I'm getting all that Brett.
All that Brett.
All that Brett. All that Brett. That's a song now.
I just want to specify now. It's a song now.
It's a song now because I just made it so.
Oh, can we get a remix board out here and just take that? I'll just get you going. All that Brett. All that Brett. Yeah, I just get... I don't know why I get popcorn, and I think it is just the from a grain perspective, that is what is in my head. Is like,
there isn't any grain in it, is there? It's apples and salt.
Maybe, I don't know.
The ingredients are on the other side.
Oh, or not.
So it says English cider, apple juice, water, sugar, carbon dioxide, Cornish sea salt, malic acid. Yeah, no, there's no grains in it.
I was reading the Goes Against the Grain, and my brain was going, oh, there's got to be grain in it. And I was thinking, that's got to be why it's there.
But our brains are so impressionable.
Yeah.
This is why you don't read labels before you try things.
No, but I still think it smells like popcorny, but I don't know why. I was just in my brain going, oh, maybe that's explained. Because in my brain, I've read that, and obviously you just read the label out, and my brain's just gone, yeah.
Can you drink that, please? Because I want to talk about it.
Tis confusion.
Right?
I feel like there's a lot of things happening.
I don't want to say what it tastes like, because then I'm going to... I'm going to mould your impressionable brain.
Hold on. There's something specific and I can't figure it out.
I don't want to say it because then you'll go, ooh.
It's definitely... Like, I definitely get a bit of the salty... Like, I definitely get that saltiness in there. I definitely get, like, the cider element in there. I almost get some, like, spice, not like heat
Oh.
spice, like as in spiciness, like similar to. I've used this description before, and I never know what it is like root beer type spiciness. Like what's lingering in my mouth right now is like a Dr. Pepper type spice. I don't know why. That's just what is there.
Okay. I taste butter.
So, that was another one that I was going to say. It actually does taste like
Buttered popcorn.
like buttered popcorn.
Right.
So, maybe me going popcorn smell, maybe I'm an actual genius. I'm just saying, maybe I'm playing 5D chess.
She was
and
like,
you're here playing
like,
top up 2D.
Right, she was like
8-bit.
Three moves ahead of me there.
I am the Queen's Gambit, mate. That is like, because that again, I literally had a sip of it and I was like, I feel like I'm getting buttered popcorn, but I also don't want to say it. But like, not just buttered, it's when you have like the salty sweet one, but then there's butter in it as well.
Yeah, because there was a bit of sweetness to it, so I'm almost getting like buttery caramel.
Yeah, I don't think it tastes buttery in like when we talk about beer and you kind of go like an off flavour.
I was like, it's not necessarily diacetyl.
No.
But it is buttery.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't land as an off flavour.
But it made me go, ooh.
I'll be like, I want to talk about this, please.
Like, ooh. I get like Funky Barnyard, apple,
Yeah.
salt,
Yeah.
butter caramel.
I think it all comes together.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a caramel popcorn.
Yes.
Like a caramel popcorn more than a butter.
Caramel corn.
But it's like if you use salted popcorn and then made a caramel corn out of it.
Yeah.
This one,
It's interesting.
I would say,
I quite
on
like
one hand, it's actually
saltiness.
on one hand, it's actually just as, in my opinion, just as complex as that little Pomona.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting this one to be.
Yeah, I'm very surprised about. I mean,
It's really interesting.
Hogans. I love that you turn around and go, "We love it."
Toot
Like,
toot.
toot toot.
I love that you toot
Like,
your own horn.
impressive.
Beep fucking beep. I love your conviction in
Right.
yourself.
Right.
I'm not disagreeing with it.
I'm not disagreeing with it. Right. Toot toot. I'm there with you.
I don't hate it.
No.
I kind of went in going, I don't know, this would be interesting
Right.
to try, but I don't know. How's that going to work? How's the saltiness going to
And I
work?
feel
How's
like-
it going to play? And actually, it's played off really well.
Yeah, and I feel like if you've got someone who really enjoys the ghost style, like you can be like, try this, you'll like it.
I think it depends. In my opinion, it depends because I don't think you're getting any real like tartness to it. Like there's no like
Really? I'm getting a little
See,
bit
I
of
don't-
tartness.
I'm not.
I think where you're getting the Dr. Pepper spice, I'm interpreting that as a little bit of tartness.
Maybe. I think like the any type of tartness that's there is it's quite minor and it's only for like a very quick second. And I think it sort of depends. Like, I think if you like ciders, if you normally like ciders and you normally like beers and you kind of struggle to like pick between them, I feel like this is a good. Because I actually think like some people might go, I don't like gose, like I don't like the gose style. And actually I don't think those people would necessarily dislike this. Like I don't think what puts people off of a gose, I don't think is what's here.
I think it's quite salty though.
It is quite salty, yeah, there is quite a level of saltiness.
Yeah.
But I think like it's not always the salt that can. Because
Yeah,
some goses aren't like, even though the salt's there.
Yeah,
When
it should only be a hint
when it's doing
to
its
lift all
job.
the
It's not.
flavours.
Yeah, it should
Lift.
be balanced enough. A lift. A lift. It should be there to to lift you up. But I think some of the like when sometimes people don't like goses and there is sort of like a bit more sharpness to it. So like, I don't feel like that is here to do that. Like I feel like you might
I see what
still
you mean.
like this
Yeah,
if you didn't like
Yeah.
a gose.
I see what you mean. I think this one might be my favourite one.
It's definitely the most. I feel like it's really hard because I feel like we're doing. I feel like we're doing some of the ones really dirty here.
But that's what I feel like. I feel like I can't say that this is the best one, but I think it is my favourite.
No, but that's the thing is like what we're
Pomona
talking
dirty,
about.
right?
What we're talking about is more like as non-cider drinkers. We're trying to just work out like what did we like, what didn't we like. So it's just going like that one's my favorite. It doesn't mean that it's like the upper echelon. Like it doesn't necessarily mean it's the upper echelon.
I just enjoy the taste of it. Like,
but I guess that's probably similar to how like if somebody wasn't really into beer and they were trying to get into beer, as we discussed the other day. You don't just throw a Duchess at someone,
right?
And go like, you're gonna love it, mate. This is great. Like you don't. And like I think that's the same with sours in general. Like we don't just tend to go in with this like really complex intense sour.
Yeah.
No, we tend to go, or even funky beers in general. You don't go the most complex thing you can find to get something into wild and spontaneous and funky things.
This amazing Cantillon and realise that this is actually the best beer in the world. Like.
You go, what's a baby step first? Right. And I feel like this is probably a really good a really good baby step for someone to get into cider. So like by us saying, oh, this might be the most appealing to us, that's not to go like, oh yeah, what this like really intense cidery is doing, like this really serious cidery doing this really intense thing.
But I think it's beautifully made, and I've really enjoyed the collab that they've done.
I need to come back round to it. I'll finish
I really enjoyed the collabs they did with Daya. But I feel like I'm not a cider person. Like I feel like I've done this, and I'm just like I'm not a cider person. Like I've enjoyed trying them. Would I, if I was out, pick a cider? Not necessarily. But yeah, so
I revise it when I said that it smells like popcorn. I think it smells like popcorn, but now it smells like caramel popcorn.
Well, put that in your brain now
because I know what it tastes like. I'm like, oh, it smells like caramel popcorn.
I think this is a very interesting drink. I don't know if I would go out and buy it myself because I don't think I'm a cider drinker.
I think I probably still would, to be fair. I think for me,
I think you've drunk more cider than me generally.
And also, I think, like, would I go and buy... Yeah, I probably would, because for me, what my buying habits are, I go, I want to, like, is that super interesting? Have they done something really weird and wonderful? Or, you know, just to go like, oh, you know, the label looks appealing to me. Just, like, the whole, what they do is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And also, like... I'd be interested to try when they've started blending and aging and the different barrels and stuff. So like I probably would, but it's something that I would save for a more fancy occasion.
If somebody brought it to a bottle show, I'd drink it, and I'd be interested to drink it. I don't know if I would invest in a 750ml bottle.
I think for me, if I would, but it wouldn't be just to drink by myself.
Yeah, you want to share it with somebody. Yeah,
I don't think.
Or for a special occasion.
A special occasion, a bottle share special occasion, or just a nice meal. Like I feel like I would take it out, but I would take it out in a specific time with multiple people. I don't think I would do it as like I wouldn't invest in a bottle to drink it by myself.
Yeah.
Or just to drink with Rick. It would be like we've got a bottle, let's wait for like a nice reason. Even if it was the two of us, but it would have to be like a nice reason to take it out.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be interesting to get 2 of the bottles, and kind of go, here's one bottle, have it fresh, and then here's another one, age it, and see how that works. Like, so I can give you some fun facts. Actually, do you want some fun facts to send us out?
Some more of this cider though, because I'm enjoying it.
Or I'll have some as well then. So some fun facts. Ciderkin was a colonial beverage that was made with the leftover apple pulp after pressing. It was weakly alcoholic, and it was mainly drunk by children.
So much like a table beer, like, because, because I suppose it's still safer than water.
So we'll get to that one in a second.
Okay,
we'll get to that one in a second.
I'm jumping the gun. I'll be
definitely
quiet.
Jumping the gun. No, don't stay quiet. That's good. It's a good transition. But what I will say, before I get to that part, obviously... The UK is the largest producer of cider.
Hey,
I feel like that's probably not that shocking to anyone. I think that it's shocking if you don't live in the UK.
Yeah.
If you're from the US and you don't really understand that sort of difference in cider, I didn't really know. Maybe now it's different, but like before I moved here, hard cider was very in the US was very not very common.
Yeah.
And I think it was just starting to be like, here's some hard cider. Or you'd make it you'd maybe put some rum in some non-alcoholic cider and make some nice warm, like almost like a mulled cider. And that.
I mean, it's a farmyard process. Do you know? It's,
But I think it wasn't really as popular in the US.
Yeah.
At least when I was there, and it might not still, it still might not be. I'm not sure, actually.
But I wonder if that is anything to do with, like, the type of people that settled in the US, or with, like, because, I mean, you have apple trees and stuff, right? You have a lot of apple trees,
literally,
right?
It's like, it depends on, I guess, maybe it depends on where you are. I'm biased, but where I'm from, it's very much like
apples.
Autumn is apple picking season.
Yeah. So that's
you have
not
apple cider donuts. You have apple cider everything.
Yeah,
but that's all made like apple cider donuts, for example. That's made with just like apple cider, not what they would classify as hard cider. But yeah, I wonder
if that's something to do with. Yeah, I wonder if it's something to do with the type of settler that was there. Like they tended to be more beer people, or if it's something to do with like prohibition.
Potentially, yeah. I mean that's potential. I think it's interesting. Just in the sense of like, I think that if you...
some deep alcohol history.
It feels really... We're not qualified to probably dig into.
Qualified to dig into that right
It's fine, but we're going to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting because I think like when you live in the UK, you go, obviously the UK is the biggest. Right. And when you live in the UK and you've travelled around Europe and everywhere else, you go like... And you've seen what the US is like... You go, oh yeah, of course, that's a no-brainer. I mean, but I think if you were in the US and someone said to you, "Who's the biggest cider producer?" you wouldn't necessarily know. You'd just be like,
America.
Us, because we are number one.
Everything.
I can say that. So, I'm American. I can say that.
So, like, I mean, beer and wine developed because of the climates, right? So that's why, like, Northern Europe's got more beer because of a damp
I'm so
climate.
glad you're saying all this because you're setting me up for some really good fun facts.
Oh, good.
Carry on.
And then, the closer to the equator, you've got more wine because of the heat and stuff. I wonder how that works out with apples.
Well, if somebody knows, like, we'll get little Pomona. Come talk to me.
Yeah.
Literally I would love to talk to a cidery and learn more, and then they can tell us why we're so wrong for
why we're so wrong for enjoying
everything. There's no shade on Hogans either. No. Like
toot your own horn. It was a good one.
It was really good. It was really good. But yeah, and I think like obviously when it comes to how far back ciders go, it was enjoyed by ancient Romans, Greeks, Celts, all them ancient peeps. So that is it's fairly old drink. According to Brothers Cider website, so Brothers is like another, if you don't know, they're another big like supermarket cider. I mean, I think so I started like Magners, and then I probably was more like moved into more like Rekorgelig, and so Brothers is another one that's had some.
Not Thatcher's.
No, I was never a Thatcher's person. No, I was very much
that's
Magners.
Scrumpy. When we were at
despite
at
everyone
school,
thinking I'm West Country.
At school, Scrumpy Jack's was because my friend's family had a pub, and so we all had like Scrumpy Jack glasses from the pub.
I've been asked of like when people think I'm from West Country and they're like, "Do you love cider?" I'm like, "No,
no."
They're like, "Do you get your say?" They want me to say Combine Harvester is normally
Combine
one.
Harvester.
Combine Harvester. It's normally one that people ask me to say.
You're just like Combine Harvester. What?
Combine Harvester.
Yeah.
And then they're like, fun. And then it's like cider.
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 I can say it better than you can. They get very confused. This is why I laugh so hard when everyone's like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Go on, guess."
The amount of people that I've walked up to and they're like, "And you're from the West Country?" And I'm like, "No,
no, I'm not."
And then it always devolves into like cider chat, and I'm like, I don't. No idea.
That's very stereotypical.
And scrumpy, and like they'll be like, "Oh, scrumpy cider." I'm like, "Oh."
Very stereotypical.
It is.
We don't condone that kind of activity on a women's brew.
Don't profile me.
No.
Don't profile West Country people.
All cider is for everyone.
Cider for everyone, for sure. Yeah, according to Brothers' website, cider was. This is where I was leading into.
Cool.
Cider was considered safer to drink than water between the 13th and the 17th century, and also it wasn't uncommon to pay labourers in cider.
Oh, much like saison was used they say saison was used to pay people, like used as provision for farmhands. I mean table beer, saison, fermented beverages that were easily made at farms. But, all the same.
But do I want to get paid just in that? No.
Probably not.
Can't eat it. But I guess maybe if it was safer than water, you might. But also the more interesting part of that is also babies were being baptised on some occasions with cider.
With cider?
Because of how much cleaner and more bug-free it was in comparison to the drinking water during those years. Yeah. Well, that was really interesting. I was like, that's a really... Sticky, and it reminds me of like... well, I don't know if that cider is the same as like cider today or if it's slightly different or, I don't know. That it didn't say that, but that was interesting. I remember going to the Jorvik Viking Centre, as I've talked about probably numerous times now, in York. And I remember like the ride that you go on, they basically tell you that for them, like drinking alcoholic beverages is better than drinking water. Yeah, because all the peas and poos used to run off into the water and contaminated their drinking water.
So that's why table beer was a thing, because it was boiled, so then it was safe. And I suppose it was just apple juice rather than, and it's not got any actual water in it. So, as long as you wash the apples, they're going to be safe, right?
Yep, pretty much. And then, so the only thing that stopped the whole labourers getting paid thing in cider was in 1887, there was a law called the Truck Amendment Act, and it made it illegal to compensate workers with cider as pay.
Oh, that's interesting. Boo! Although money and cider.
Yeah, if you want to pay for my labour in money and cider, fine. Due to historical, so this leads me, what you were saying a minute ago about different parts of the world and wine versus beer versus everything. You've tied it all in, you didn't even know.
Nicely.
So due to historical wars over wine, with the likes of countries such as like France and Portugal, perry in the UK was used as more of a substitute for champagne.
Oh, that's interesting. That is a fun fact.
In the sense of like... they're like, okay, you guys got it with wine. You've got, France has the Champagne region has the champagne. Guess what? We got perry, and we'll use that instead.
I mean, I feel like I prefer perry to cider. So
I was gonna say a lot of like we would have like when I first moved here, a lot of it would be perry. Yeah. Like with beer cocktails, you can make cider cocktails. So there's a place in Chicago, there's a drinking establishment in Chicago called Longman and Eagle, and they mix what is called red streak cider. Now, I don't know if that's the name of the cidery or the name of the cider. They mix that with Malort, which is a Swedish liqueur, and that liqueur is pretty much in its own considered fairly undrinkable on its own. I think it has to do with bitterness.
So you've got to add it to something sweet.
So basically, they found that when you add the red streak cider, that has a quite high acidity level, that it tamed the bitterness.
Okay.
And made it drinkable.
Why are they making a spirit that nobody wants to drink?
I don't know. Ask Sweden.
I mean, it must be produced for something.
I'm sure that taste buds in that area. I'm sure, this was like an American bar where taste buds are very different to probably in Sweden. So that was, and I think Malort's quite like a more historically significant drink as well. From what I know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just what I understand.
Okay.
What I've heard of before. So you can also make liquors with cider. So in France, they have what's called Calvados, and that is an apple brandy that is made by distilling cider. Oh. So they basically they distill the cider and then they mature it in oak casks for 2+ years, so 2 years minimum. Yeah. And the apples are specifically grown and selected from over 200 named varieties, and it's actually not uncommon for a producer to use over 100 specific varieties.
Wow.
And
that's complex.
Yep. And with Calvados, it can be double or single distilled as well. that was quite interesting. There's also something in the US called like Applejack, but I think
that's My Little Pony.
But I think it might be My Little Pony as well. But I think
she's
with
orange.
That, I feel like she should be.
I know she's orange with
red
yellow
or
hair,
something like that. Doesn't feel right. Or green, like red and green. When I think Applejack, I think of like the cereal Applejack. This was an American since colonial periods.
Yeah.
And I think from what I remember of looking up, I don't have the notes here, but what I remember looking up, I'm not 100% sure that it was actually cider, like hard cider. I think it might have just been normal cider. Soft cider, as we refer to it as. And then, the last one, which is interesting to what I was saying a few minutes ago about how I was like, when it comes to Little Pomona, I would like to buy, what I think would be interesting would be buying 2 and having one right away and having one aged.
Yeah.
However, saying that, ciders never quite finish conditioning.
Okay.
So if you're aging them, it's good to know that it will probably get drier with age.
Okay. As the yeast just eats up all the sugars.
Yep. But saying that, aging ciders is more ideal when it's a cider that's 6% and over.
Okay.
And like most commercial ciders aren't really meant to be aged. So like Brothers, Recalling, Thatchers, whatever, like those are all kind of not produced to be aged.
Yeah.
So what happens in that instance is they'll be sterile conditioned or pasteurized, and that means that basically if you age them for too long, it will result in more of like a cider vinegar.
Ugh.
And I know that firsthand I've definitely had ciders that like were left over from like a party someone comes to, whatever, and you try it and then you go like it would be one of those things where you like get rid of everything on the shelf, but let's have a little bit before we get rid of it. And I've definitely had ciders that I've left for like too long and you're like,
only good for cooking.
Not good. Yeah, good for cooking, not great for drinking.
No.
But yeah, those are all my fun facts.
That was cool. I enjoyed that.
Well, I'm thirsty now, so I want to go finish the rest of these ciders. I want to make my way back round and see.
Yeah, we're going to have to go back round.
Now I feel like my palate has now
adjusted
to apples and heavy dryness. So, because I feel like a lot of these, they're all fairly dry.
Yeah, they're all
my
very
mouth is
interesting. I'm glad
salivating.
that I've drunk them. I don't think I'm a cider person. I'm a beer girl. That's what I am.
I think I am a cider person in the sense of like beer is still my first option.
Yeah.
And if it's a choice between one or the other, it's still beer.
Beer is my first and only love.
However, if I went to, like, I would love to visit Little Pomona.
Yeah.
Personally, I would love to visit there and try a whole bunch of things. And to work out what apple varieties and styles they do that I really enjoy and what is like not as much for my taste buds, and then I would know what bottles to buy, and then maybe it's like beer where it's like I start on that particular way and then work my way across.
Yeah.
Again, like if I was at Three Hills and they had it on tap or whatever, I'd probably try it as well. But like if I'm going to a location and I'm having only a handful of drinks, or I have to prioritize my drinking because I'm not going to make it through a whole tap list, I'm going to select beers. I'm probably not going to select ciders, unless the only option being if it's like more of like a macro beer versus like an interesting cider. If it's macro against macro, it just depends on what's on.
Yeah,
because I'd probably take like a nice fruity, refreshing cider over, usually, as long as it's not too sweet. Because sometimes I find that those are just too sweet, and then it's like I can feel my teeth rotting in my head. None of these are this sweet, so that's fine. But I think like I would potentially take a cider over something that is not what I want to put my money towards.
Yeah.
So in terms of the non-craft beer world, so yeah, it's very situational, but I think 9 times out of 10, probably going to choose beer.
Yeah. Well, that's okay, because that's why there's a wide selection of things for everyone to enjoy and choose what makes you happy. Drink what makes you happy.
I can't wait to try some of the other ones that we've got.
Yeah.
For the bonus episode, you'll have to find out. But
you'll have to find out. Come join us over on coffee. Right, so Tori, if people want to suggest little Pomona ciders you should try.
Yeah, definitely.
Where can they do that?
Yeah, you can do that on Instagram at adventures_in_optimism, or on Gmail at adventuresinoptimism@gmail.com. Between that and my Instagram, you can pretty much get my links for anything else on there. Or you can message us both to tell us how wrong our opinions are if you really want to.
We won't listen.
You can reach out to both of us on a Women's Brew on Instagram, or a Women's Brew podcast at gmail.com. Joe, if people want to tell you more about Hogans,
they can tell me more about Hogans if they want. I mean, I still
don't know anything about Hogans.
No, they're in the Malvern Hills. It says so on the label. You can tell me some more about Hogans. I think, sorry cider people, I think that more cider for you, because I think I'm just a beer girl. But you can find me at my beer school. It's not about to become a cider school.
My beer and cider school?
No, just beer soz. My beer school, which is Love Beer Learning, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok and Pinterest. You will mostly find me on Instagram. You can also come to my website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk, or you can email me lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. We've got to go finish all of these ciders
and more.
And more that we've got in the fridge. And more beer. We've got beer as well.
We've got beer.
Yeah, it's going to be a good bank holiday weekend. So, on that note,
Cheers.
Cheers.